Well, I don't know what Jonathan Brown's on about. It hardly ever rains at Brands Hatch. This is a very, very rare wet day of racing that we're enjoying here this weekend. But no, as he is quite right to suggest, weather can often play a part in the festival. It is always takes place towards the end of the season, and we do get the odd damp day in October here in the UK. But the racing continues nonetheless, despite the very slippery conditions. And that's good news, because our third and final heat of the weekend is now just moments away. The cars, which you can see, are on the grid. This is heat number 3, sponsored by Raceparts, and the grid is as follows. It's an all-Dempsey front row with 19-year-old Jordan Dempsey, the 2015 Ginetta Junior Ireland champion, lining up on pole position, and he set a time that was a couple of tenths quicker than Peter Dempsey, who lines up alongside him. Again, to be 19. So they share the front row. The first man trying to break through the Dempsey defence will be Oliver White. Oliver White, third place in last year's festival and 4 times a champion of Brands Hatch in the resident Formula Ford series that takes place here every year. Oliver White lines up third on the grid. Niall Murray, one of the pre-event favourites, car 555, a new car this weekend for Niall, or at least a new livery on it anyway, a double festival winner. He was second last year, but led going on to the final lap of the final race before being overtaken by Josh Smith with less than a lap to go in what was a sensational lap of racing. He's also the outgoing now national champion, won the national championship last year. Scott Huffaker is our leading American driver. He, again, running with the USA scholarship from Cliff Dempsey Racing, lines up 5th on the grid. Again, apologies if I'm not getting the name right. I was told yesterday that it was close enough, so I think we'll settle for that for the time being. Rory Smith, the British driver, is alongside. Then Tom MacArthur, the 2019 Northern Formula Ford champion, with Morgan Quinn, Ginetta GT5 ace, alongside. Noel Robinson and Jack Kemp line up on row number 5 ahead of Ryan Campbell and Jason Down. Then Colin Blackburn and Simon Hadfield with Tom Clowett and Richard Davison on row 8. Row 9 for Rick Morris, who is the championship leader in the Classic Formula Ford Championship this season, coming into what will now be its final race of the year tomorrow, with Trevor Delaney alongside him. Then Ian Geary and Oliver Chapman, Phil Atwood and Terry Walkinshaw, with Dan Rene Larson at the back of the grid. Now, Dan is a last-minute substitute for Team Europe in the Formula Ford Festival World Cup, which is an annual event where 3 drivers from various nations or regions are nominated to score points for their nation. And it's a team competition with points awarded in relation to the finishing positions in the heats, semi-finals and the final. So they're all allocated before qualifying began this morning. If you win a race, basically, you get 30 points, which go to your country. So we'll try and get updated overnight points, if you like, for the World Cup. But we've got Team USA, Team Down Under, England, South, Southwest, North, Northern and Republic of Ireland, Scotland, Canada, and the JRT Team Europe, which, as I said, Dan Rene Larson was a last-minute substitute for. So, yeah, just another thing to fight for here at the aimshop.com Formula Ford Festival, as if for the festival victory wasn't enough. So the cars then start to make their way onto the grid. The white and blue car of Jordan Dempsey, the 19-year-old, lines up on the front row of the grid with Peter Dempsey alongside. Then Oliver White and Niall Murray. Keep an eye to the black and orange car of Niall Murray, which is sideways as it approaches its grid slot. And then the American driver Scott Huffaker, who is lining up 5th on the grid, just one place ahead of where Zach Vanier, the Canadian scholarship driver, started for the previous race, and we saw what a terrible start he got. So Huffaker will be hoping to avoid a similar fate if he can. Keep an eye on Rory Smith as well, very experienced Formula Ford racer in both the National and the Northern Championship. The Northern Championship particularly competitive this year as well, so the champion Tom MacArthur, one to watch for here, I think, as he tries to come through from 7th on the grid. All set then for our third and final heat of the aimshop.com Formula Ford Festival. The third heat sponsored by Raceparts. The red lights go on. Out we go. Which Dempsey gets the best start? I would say that it's Peter from the outside of row 1 that gets the better launch and will move into the race lead down to Paddock Hill Bend in the second phase of the launch. Jordan Dempsey has actually, I think, lost second place as well, and that might be Niall Murray coming round the outside for third place too through Paddock Hill Bend. Into the lead, though, goes the Cliff Dempsey car. Now, which one is that? Is that Jordan? No, it's not Jordan or Peter Dempsey, I don't think, that's got the lead of the race now as they head up the hill into Druid's Corner. That may be Scott Huffaker that's come through from the third row of the grid. We'll get a better view of them, hopefully, a little bit later around the lap, but they're all safely through Druids and Paddock Hill Bend for the first time of asking, and already rather a jumbled order at the front of the field, which makes its way now out of Graham Hill Bend, down the Cooper Straight. Side-by-side action there, the number 42 car losing a place. That's Simon Hadfield. So Simon Hadfield, who qualified 14th, couldn't really afford to lose any places here in the early stages. Through Surtees they go then up to the end of the opening lap of racing. And no, it wasn't Scott Huffaker then, because he's in a blue and white car, isn't he? So who was it then that came through into the race lead? Possibly it was one of the Dempseys after all. Well, in fact, now it's Niall Murray. So Niall Murray has got the lead at the end of the opening lap from fourth on the grid. So brilliant start for him. It's Peter Dempsey Senior that is second place, Oliver White third, Huffaker fourth, and Jordan Dempsey, the pole sitter, drops down into fifth position at the end of the first lap of racing. Then Rory Smith and Morgan Quinn, with Tom MacArthur also losing a position down to eighth ahead of Kemp and Robinson to round out the top 10. So that's your order at the end of lap number one. There's Morgan Quinn, the grey and blue car. Looking at the inside of him is Tom MacArthur in the Medina, the 2018 spec Medina, another chassis out there representing the sort of variety that we have come to expect these days from Formula Ford racing. There then the fight that's going on for fourth position. Scott Huffaker with Jordan Dempsey behind him. Jordan will not want to hang around here because in the dry this morning he was the quickest driver in this group in qualifying, and he'll want to try and assert that authority once again if he can. In the two heats we saw earlier on today, have had one pole sitter get to the victory, which was Jonathan Brown in Heat 2. But of course in Heat 1 it was actually not the pole sitter that won, it was the man that started sixth, Matt Cowley. So which way will it go in this one? Will it be the man that was setting the pace in qualifying, or maybe someone else? Well, at the moment you'd say it would be someone else, because Niall Murray, having started fourth on the grid, is extending his margin with the fastest lap on lap number 2, the first full flying lap of the race, 1 minute 2.501, 1.3 seconds clear of Peter Dempsey in second position, who's not under a huge amount of pressure from Molly White, it must be said. The real battle is the one between Huffaker and Dempsey Jr. as we peer through the gloom and the rain-spattered camera to see the field making their way into Graham Hill Bend in what are increasingly miserable conditions here at Brands Hatch, but thankfully the racing action is keeping us all thoroughly entertained. Easy for me to say, I suppose, from my nice, warm, dry commentary box, but you can see the people watching from the paddock, from the pit lane as well, cheering their drivers on. Wherever you go around the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, you get a pretty spectacular view. And there you can see the order then. It is Murray that leads the way, getting away as well. So really the competition is behind them. Side by side there up the inside goes Jordan Dempsey, gets himself ahead of Scott Huffaker. So Dempsey into fourth position. The fight back begins. But as you can see, he's already a decent way behind everybody else. In fact, Huffaker is fighting back now as they come across the start-finish line, but couldn't quite force the issue there into Paddock Hill Bend. And I think sensibly decides to let Jordan Dempsey go. He might be able to tag along with Jordan now and see if they can both work together to close down this 1.6 second margin that they've got to try and close to get to the top three drivers now. That will be helped though by the fact that Oliver White is starting now to apply the pressure to Peter Dempsey just up the road. There they go down the hill. Peter Dempsey, who was the early leader then, despite not making a particularly good start, it must be said. He is running well now in second position through Surtees. Bit of debris there on the racing line, which I thought for a second Peter Dempsey was going to run over. Hope that won't do any damage if it does get collected by somebody. Through they come then. Car 555, Niall Murray leading the way by 1.9 seconds at the end of lap number 3. That gap is only going to continue to grow. I think Niall is very good in all conditions, but in the wet he definitely would be the favourite, you'd have to say, coming into this race. Peter Dempsey though, with Oliver White right behind him. And are they being caught by Jordan Dempsey? Yes, they are, to the tune of over half a second, actually. Dempsey is going after them very much. Rory Smith, though, is now the man behind him in fifth because he's gone past Scott Huffaker, who I think is struggling in the conditions and is sideways in the background there, Scott Huffaker, and all over the curves. Will that lose him another place? Morgan Quinn was the next man applying pressure to him. And let's see whether Morgan was able to take advantage as they scrabbled for grip down into Graham Hill Bend. I would say I'd look out of the window and try and see, but I can see absolutely nothing out of my commentary box windows because it's got rather steamy in here all of a sudden. So through goes this second place battle. I don't think Morgan Quinn got past Huffaker. I think Huffaker has retained sixth position, but is of course some way behind the pack in front of him now. which makes its way through clearways. Dempsey Jr. is the man on the move here, though, isn't he? Dempsey on the previous lap was half a second quicker than these two drivers, Peter Dempsey and Oliver White, who are closer together than ever as they go towards Paddock Hill Bend, and Oliver has a little peek to the inside. Again, though, as we've been saying all day, that's not the grippiest line through Paddock Hill Bend, and so Peter Dempsey will hang on for now, but again on that lap they're holding each other up, and Jordan Dempsey is quicker, that time only by about 3/10 quicker than Peter Dempsey, but that still means that he's now within a second of second position, and by the end of this lap I think we will be talking about a three-way fight for P2, so this is becoming the fight to focus on here. Through Graham Hill Bend they go then. Cliff Dempsey car, of course, for Peter and Jordan Dempsey, as you'd imagine, through the left-hander at Surtees, and very, very tight line taken by Oliver White, and it catches you out, doesn't it, because it looks as though he's going through on the inside, and again here, look, goes to the inside, carries real speed into the corner. It's a real block pass there from Oliver White, but it might actually have worked. Has Dempsey got the run on the exit? They go either side of a back marker, and Peter Dempsey is trying to fight back into second place, almost banging wheels as they cross the start-finish line. Nothing to choose between them, and Peter Dempsey goes back through. That was a really good attempt at an overtake, though, from Oliver White. It ultimately didn't work, but that is the only way you're going to overtake at clearways, I think, because everyone else is going around the outside. Maybe if you just send it on the inside and try and get the car stopped, you might possibly be able to go through, but that's all that's really achieved is it's bunched everybody together, because not only is Jordan Dempsey with them, but also Rory Smith now, so it's a four-car fight for the lower podium positions, and they're now 4.6 seconds behind Niall Murray, the race leader, so the positions stay as they were, but they keep on delaying each other in this battle they're having. Through Surtees again, and all sideways for Dempsey as the rain, I think, has returned with some real menace. Now, is White going to try this again? I think he is, you know. He's back up the inside again. Take two. Gets the car stopped just about, but of course Dempsey knows it's coming now, cuts back to the inside line on the exit, carries a bit more speed off the corner, but not enough this time, so Oliver White has done it, and he's got through into second place. That was a case of a driver learning from experience there, I think we can say. He tried it a lap earlier, didn't quite come off, but he figured out what he needed to do the next time by, and has gone into second place. What he doesn't want to do now is throw it all away by running a bit too wide at Paddock Hill Bend, but he gets back in line. 177 is going a lap down now, that's Phil Atwood, who stays dutifully out of the way of our podium protagonists, who are inches apart going through Druid's Corner. Now, Jordan Dempsey's lost a position in all of this as well, hasn't he? I think maybe Rory Smith was watching what Oliver White was doing and has found a way past the other Dempsey too. So Peter and Jordan both losing positions that time round. Oliver White into second, Rory Smith into fourth, and now having a look up the inside of Peter Dempsey. And it does look as though Rory Smith is carrying good pace at this phase of the race. He again goes to the inside into Clearways Corner, and it's that block pass again, but he didn't quite execute it as neatly as White did before, but I think it's still been successful. It has. He's come back through, so all it took was one driver to try it. As soon as one driver tried the inside line and made it work, other people were always going to follow suit, and that's something worth taking note of. If we get any wet weather tomorrow, that's maybe the best place to try and make your move stick, because it's almost impossible to defend from, because if you cover the inside line going in, chances are you will then be slow through the corner and lose out on the straight to those that are taking the traditional wet line behind. So it's a tricky move to defend from, and I think we've just seen that perfectly there. Both Dempseys struggling to do so. So out of Graham Hill they go, and back down the Cooper Straight. We're on to the already ninth lap of the race. So there's a spin at Paddock Hill Bend. That's Rick Morris, unfortunately, who was running really well, actually, in 10th place. He was in a transfer spot, but he won't be anymore. He will drop right down the order. The man that was on the bubble was number 33, Richard Davison, and he was actually fairly comfortably ahead of number 88, Jason Down, who started 12th, but he's dropped some way down the order to 17th. That may now become 16th, though, with the spin there for Rick Morris. Now, the other question is, did Rick get going again? Because it did look as if the car was a bit stranded in the middle of the road, but no, there's no sign of him there, so he's got going again. Off onto the curbs goes Oliver White, and that is why I've been saying that you need to stay away from those curbs, because there is zero grip on the painted surface, and Oliver White very nearly threw away his second place there. Now, Rory Smith will potentially smell blood in the water now. He'll have seen that mistake from Oliver White. He'll know that Oliver might be a bit more circumspect now for the next lap or so as he tries to regain his confidence. And so Rory may be able to use that as a catalyst for making a move. He's close look coming into the second half of the lap, which is where he made his move, or where they both made their moves on these two, both of the Dempseys, who themselves have got themselves together. And Jordan Dempsey, look, learning from experience. He was overtaken by someone using the tight line. It looked as though he was going to try and get to the inside there of Peter, but actually in the end bailed out of it. And so second place stays as it was, so too does fourth behind. And they come across the start-finish line still with White second, Smith third, Dempsey fourth, Peter Dempsey that is, and Jordan Dempsey fifth. Huffaker is sixth, but a little way back. Morgan Quinn seventh, Tom MacArthur eighth, ninth place for Noel Robinson, and 10th for number 99, and off goes Peter Dempsey through the Gravel Hill Bend Paddock Hill Bend gravel trap. Put those words in any order you like and it might make some sense. He's gone off the road, thankfully got going again though. Will have of course lost a position, that fourth position, to Jordan Dempsey. So Jordan Dempsey, the pressure that he was applying there to Peter told in the end and forced the mistake out of him. Peter, much the more experienced driver, but did make the error there at Paddock Hill Bend, which has cost him now that fourth position, but he'll still be reasonably happy with the top five, I think. Just surviving the race in one piece in these conditions takes some doing. Now that's freed Jordan Dempsey up though. Has he got any speed for the two in front, Ollie White and Rory Smith? I'm not sure he does really. I don't think he's going to be able to catch them in the remaining time, because we're on to lap 12 of 15 already, 4 laps to go. The gap at the front still 5.7 seconds between Niall Murray and Ollie White, who, as you can see here, is less than a second clear of Rory Smith in third, then further 2.1 seconds back to Jordan Dempsey, who was fractionally slower than them on the previous lap. Then Peter Dempsey down to fifth, as we said. Scott Huffaker still sixth. No real changes in the order for the time being, so they may now just turn to survival mode really for the rest of the race. Even Niall Murray's back the pace off at the front. No one improving lap times though, because the rain is heavier now than it's been at any point today. You can see the extra standing water that's starting to accumulate on the track, and that means that even though the positions are, or the gaps between various positions are a little bigger than we saw in the previous two heats, mistakes are more likely, and so we could yet have changes here in the order simply through problems and mistakes for drivers rather than drivers actually making moves. Across the line goes car number 9, that's Terry Walkingshaw, who's running 23rd and last at the moment, but is still going. We've had no retirements in this heat. We had no retirements in Heat 2 either. So some really good driving out there in tricky conditions, although there is just as I said that, there's a car that stopped at the top of the hill on the inside at Druids. Didn't quite catch who that was, but that's why we had yellow flags out on the entry to Druids Corner. No overtaking then at the second turn. Who was it though that has disappeared? No one within the top 10, I don't think. Was it anyone within the top 16 more significantly, because that would have an effect on who progresses to the heats. 177 there is Phil Atwood, who's running 22nd, so it's not him. You can see that. Oh, and Niall Murray has to go right round the outside of him. That was really, really close stuff there for the race leader. He's got nearly a 6-second cushion now, and was nearly in the gravel though there as he goes on to the penultimate lap of the race. The car we've lost appears to be number 35, which was Tom Clowett, and he was in 17th place, so I don't think he was going to get through into the semi-final anyway, but he definitely won't now because he's out of the race, stranded on the inside at Druids, so that answers that one. Niall Murray though only has to worry about picking off a few more back markers now, because with just over a lap and a half to go in this heat, he is, I was going to say almost home and dry. I don't think anyone's dry this weekend, but he's almost home, and he's going to be our most dominant heat winner of the day. 6 seconds already the gap, and that's only going up every lap, even though he doesn't really need to push here. He's still setting lap times that no one else can match really. There's the 88 car then, which is Jason Down. Now he's the man that's 17th at the moment, so he's one position outside of the transfer spots, but he's also 6.7 seconds behind Richard Davison in 16th, so he's about to go a lap down, but I don't think that will make a huge amount of difference really to his result. He's hoping that other drivers in front fall off the road to maybe give him a transfer spot to the semis. Goes a lap down now then into Paddock Hill Bend. Niall Murray onto his final lap of the race though, and in true Niall Murray fashion, he got out in front in the early stages, controlled the race from there. We saw this time and time again last season when he was on his way to the National Championship. Won more races than anybody else, and was, I think, if memory serves, the only driver to win all 3 races in a weekend, actually, in 2018, which he may have even done on more than one occasion, but he won those races because he was able to control races from the front whenever he qualified on pole position. No one else really got a look in, but also in the reversed grid races that are a part of the National Formula Ford weekend, he was also able to come charging through the order and very, very frequently get to the front a lot quicker than we expected, which is exactly what he did today. He got to the lead from 4th on the grid within the first couple of corners, and so for the second time today, it will be a driver that did not start on the front row that wins a heat, and heat number 3 here at the aimshop.com Formula Ford Festival. This race sponsored by Raceparts, and this race is won by Niall Murray, and that very much has sent a warning shot now, I think, to everybody else that Niall Murray means business. The race time was 15:48.062, which was actually slower than the previous heat because of the slippery conditions, I guess. So that will mean that Niall, I don't think, will be on pole position for a semi-final, but he should be on the front row, and he will be on the front row, guaranteed. He is a very, very deserving winner. Ollie White comes home in second, despite that scare at Paddock Hill Bend. Rory Smith third. Jordan Dempsey, the pole sitter, ends up 4th, with Peter Dempsey 5th, then Morgan Quinn, Scott Huffaker, Tom MacArthur in 8th position. We're still waiting for 9th place Noel Robinson to come through. Here he comes now with friends in tow as well, because very close behind him was the 99 car of Ryan Campbell, who finishes 10th. 11th place is number 34 Jack Kemp. There is the stricken car of number 35 Tom Clowett that I mentioned earlier on. Just to run through the rest of the finishers then within the top 16, in 12th position was appropriately number 12 Colin Blackburn, 13th for Rick Morris in the end, despite the spin, so he did well to retain top 16 position. 14th for number 42 Simon Hadfield, 15th number 33 Richard Davison even, and rounding out the top 16. So we did have a change for 15th. Davison got 15th towards the end there, ahead of number 40 Dan Rene Larson, who started from the back of the grid and got through into a transfer spot. That means that Jason Down in 17th position, Oliver Chapman in 18th, and then Delaney, Geary, Atwood and Walkingshaw are all on the outside looking in. They will therefore have to rely on a good finish in the last chance heat race later on this evening to get through to the semis, as will, as long as he can get his car fixed, Tom Clowett, who was our only non-finisher from the heat. So good racing there, slightly calmer than the first 2 heats, which possibly is good news, because it was all getting very, very excitable in the first couple of races of the day. Don't forget though, more racing to come. We've got the Irish Supercars and the Golf Mech GT Lights, which provided a thoroughly entertaining race this morning in dry conditions. They're up next in about 20 minutes time or so, and then at 5:15, there or thereabouts anyway, the Heat's Last Chance race sponsored by Camtech Security, which will be the final chance for drivers to get through to the semi-finals. So those that haven't automatically qualified by finishing in the top 16 in the heats, they will be looking to try and do so by getting into the top 12 in that last chance heats race later on. That will be coming up at 5:15. That's a new race for this year as well, so well worth sticking around to the end of the day. You may as well. What else are you going to do on a soggy Saturday afternoon? Stick around, watch some more good racing here at Brands Hatch, including another Formula Ford race a little bit later on. Racing tomorrow, by the way, gets underway at 10 o'clock, and it's a full day of racing tomorrow with no lunch break. And we've been able to cram in a lot of races tomorrow. Actually, we'll have about 12 or 13 races in total to bring you tomorrow. And now, though, let's head down. I believe we can head down now to the pit lane with Joe.
Niall Murray, well done. This is looking good now. 2018, it was stolen from you, but obviously the winner in 2017, this is making it a little bit more promising.
Yeah, very disappointing this morning in the dry, but we found an issue again. I keep finding issues all week. Hopefully this is the last one. But yeah, thankfully the issue we found on Thursday in the wet worked well today. I was flying there in the wet, so yeah, can't thank the team enough. Sam and Bernard Dolan and everybody else involved.
The forecast is dry for tomorrow, you'll be glad to hear.
I know, typical. When I get wet days, it's going to be dry tomorrow. But no, look, we were looking good this morning. I was
6 seconds. I don't think it's the quickest because it was a lot wetter there, but it's still a 6-second victory.
Yeah, no, it's, look, I just kept the head down for the first kind of 10, 12 laps and just banged in the times. I only got my gap near the end that I was 5 seconds ahead, so then I kind of could breathe and just relax then for the last couple of laps. So just took it home.
Well done. I'll let you go and keep dry.
Thanks, Joe.